Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Brothers in Arms, a new way for men to talk. I am your host, comedian Edgar Rivera, and I'm joined today by my brothers, Dr. Dan Ragnar and comedian Eric Nieves. What's up, brothers?
Good to see you, Eric.
Hey, Dr. Dan.
Why did I say good to see you, Eric? What's going on?
Well,
there?
yeah,
It's good to see you too, Edgar. That was a little bit of accidental bullying, which fits into what we're doing.
You know, I think you focused on the right E. You got it on the right one. No, I'm just kidding.
I always say, "What's up, brothers?" and it's like you both are frozen like this.
Well, you know what it is. We never talk about who's supposed to say hello first, so we don't want to step over each other's words. So we're all like, it's like double dutch.
Eric and I are just being careful of each other.
Yeah, we were waiting for an opening in the rope before we jumped in, and then we just kind of.
And then Dr. Dan said, "Hello, Eric."
Hello, it's good to see you, Eric.
How
are you, Dr. Dan?
Well, listen, actually, I'm feeling feisty today. I'm going to tell you why. Not feisty towards you guys, of course. I think it's because of our topic. I'll let you introduce the topic first, Edgar, and then I'll tell you why I'm feeling feisty.
Oh, well, we like a feisty Dr. Dan, don't we?
So you feeling feisty, but how was your week, Dr. Dan? How was this week for you?
It was good. It a lot of varied stuff as always, but I'm feeling really good about where life's going, where I'm channeling things. That includes being here with you guys. It's always a great time.
Nice. That's what's up. I want all the listeners and viewers to know that Dr. Dan stays very busy on his YouTube. Every half hour, Dr. Dan's dropping a video, and he has our show on there. But you can also check out all his other shows that are very interesting because Dr. Dan is the very best at what he does. So
you should see his YouPorn channel. His YouPorn channel's bananas. I mean, he's making the girls feel better about the choices they made while he's doing it. It's amazing. It's a nice combination of therapy and thrashing. No,
I think, and now I was feeling feisty. Now I'm feeling as uncomfortable as I think I've ever felt.
I'm sorry, I'm just playing.
That's okay. I'm just going to call it like it is.
So what about you, Eric? How you doing, buddy?
I am good. I am dreading the change of seasons that is coming. But the days get short. You start off the day dark. You get home, it's dark. Just a whole bunch of darkness. We're about to turn the clock.
I hate this time of year with that.
Right? You feel like you spend all of your valuable daytime hours working for someone else, and then you get to come home and sit in your own darkness.
Actually, you know what, Eric? I always look forward to December 21st. It is the shortest day of the year. Every day after that gets lighter and lighter and lighter. We'll get there fast.
All right. Well, only a couple of months away.
That's why I moved to LA, because I can't deal with those seasons no more. That's it. I'm done. Even though it gets pretty nippy out here, people think like I hate when I tell someone.
Yeah.
When it hits
frigid 50.
You see what I'm saying? All the New Yorkers, like all the East Coast people get mad, right?
It's not an East Coast thing. Listen, I moved to Florida, and I remember I lived in Florida for a couple of years, and like the first story in the news was the frost alert for oranges because the temperature was going to hover towards 45. And this was like major news. They're like, oh my God, we don't know if the crops are going to make it. I'm like, are you serious? People didn't have jackets. It was Armageddon.
But that's how it is here. You know what? I tell people here the other day it was nippy over here. It was like I woke up in the morning, it was like 48 degrees, and you're not used to it. And I go outside, oh, it's nippy, and people be like, oh, you're from New York, you shouldn't feel nippy. I'm like, what? Because I'm from New York, I don't feel cold? Come on, get out of here. But I love it out here though, because it gets nippy in the morning, and then during the day you can wear some shorts, and then at nighttime, So we have to go through the seasons, but not as bad as you guys. So
well. Right. Well, Dr. Dan, you're in Ohio, so you talk about winter.
You know what's funny? Everybody said, oh, how are you going to handle the winter? Because I was in Brooklyn for 15 years before that, and they were like, how are you going to handle the winter in Ohio? And I was like, listen, in Ohio, you go from inside a house to inside your car to inside another house. In New York, you walk around in it. I was much colder in New York.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's worse. And it's worse because it comes to that, especially if you live in the Bronx, you got the... When it snows, you dig your car out. The next morning, you leave to work, and then someone just pulls right into that spot that took you 3 hours to dig out. And that's the horrible part, man.
Now that's cold.
So that's why everybody walks, because you can't drive. I refuse. I'm not taking that car out of there.
That's the only time in New York there are clearly defined parking spaces. They're like just little craters in these snow drifts, and you hope your car fits. Like, oh, I think that was a compact. I think we're good.
Yeah. Well. Well, I'm happy. I'm happy to be back here with you guys as always. Every week, I look forward to this the most. This week we're back to the three of us again, which I'm very happy. I like the fact that we could bring Rob in for 2 weeks in a row, and now we go back to our, to regroup and get it together. So let's just go right into it, Eric. Let's go. Dr. Dan, you want to introduce the segment?
That's right, of course. It's old news, maybe from yesterday.
That's right, because no news is old news. It's just news that was said at a different time. So today, Dr. Dan said he was feisty, and he was feeling a little feisty because today's topic is bullying. So, the first thing you think of when you think of bullying is you think of children being bullied. So I was just curious, like, what are the effects in adulthood if you're bullied as a child? So I did some research, and I found out, some interesting things. So adults that were bullied as children are at a greater risk of depression and lower self-esteem. They're likely to experience problems forming relationships and have issues with their families. They earn less wages than their counterparts. They're more likely to engage in self-destructive behaviors. They're more likely to lose their jobs. And this one killed me. They have lower cognitive activity at the age of 50 than those that said they weren't bullied. And I'm like, wow,
That's incredible.
That's wild. And then I thought that would be, that would be the most shocking thing. The most shocking thing to me is the percentage of Americans that reported in this study that are bullied as adults. 31% of the people that were polled said they were being bullied as an adult. 31%. And, you either with workplace bullying or family bullying or friend bullying, whatever kind of bullying as an adult, 31% of adults said they're being bullied. And it leads to all these 19% of them that were reported being bullied, they reported having a mental breakdown because of the bullying.
Mm. I want to say something about that too, because how we define bullying is important. There are plenty of times where it could be dismissed as teasing or even friendly, and there might even be intention for it to be friendly to some degree. But a lot of times people experience bullying in situations where someone else might say, "No, I didn't see that as bullying." What matters is how it felt to you. If it felt humiliating to you and it felt really bad to you, then that is a form of bullying. Now, we don't necessarily need to call the other person a bully, but we might need to address it.
Well, there's direct bullying and indirect bullying is what I found in my research. Direct bullying is, the physical, the insults. Indirect bullying is making people feel bad about their decisions or saying things to make them feel bad about themselves. Or making them go in a direction they don't want to, making them feel guilty about it. So some people may dismiss it as peer pressure, but it's bullying, and I'm just amazed that 31% of adults feel like they're being bullied as adults.
And I have to say, as a therapist, I'm amazed it's only 31%. Because the reality is, and listen, it doesn't necessarily mean somebody's being bullied all the time. I mean, I don't know what goes into that 31%. Is that somebody who's like feeling bullied on a regular basis by somebody, or is it somebody who can just feel bullied some of the time? I think everybody has that brought some. I mean, if we had it just who experienced some form of feeling bullied in the last month, I'd say it's over 80%. A lot of people.
Mm-hmm. I think
so. You think they underreported in
Yes.
this study that probably a lot of people didn't even want to admit they were being bullied.
I think they underreported even to themselves. They just think about how many times you have an interaction with somebody and it just feels bad. I had a group of friends in grad school, and genuine friends of mine, and we were good friends. They liked me, but they had a bullying mentality. They did, and I hated it. It was just like this thing, and this is why I'm feeling feisty today, because I want to stand up and fight for not only for myself, but for everybody when we feel bullied, almost especially in those indirect ways. Because the direct ways, then you could maybe have somebody step in and be like, you know what? That's not okay. I got your back. But in the indirect ways, it gets washed under, and then you go on your way feeling bad. That group of friends, almost every time I hung out with them, I had to be on the defensive, which is not good for your body. Think about what you just said, Eric, about the changes in cognitive function. Listen, your body doesn't know whether it's direct or indirect bullying. It just knows that it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you mentioned this. These are actual stats. 39% of the adults that bullied reported suffering from sleep loss. 26% reported having headaches. 22% reported muscle spasms and pain. And that's on top of the 19% that had a breakdown, and 17% saying they were unable to function from day to day because of how they were feeling. So it manifests in the body just as much as in the mind.
Yeah,
the
and look,
mind
people,
body.
people. That's right. People can bully about the concept of bullying. Like you could say, "Oh, I was being bullied," and they'll be like, "No, you weren't. Come on." And then they push you out of that. Well, that's bullying about that too. We really, I read a book. It's called Sticks and Stones. I don't remember the author offhand. I'll look it up. But it was a great book, and it showed how damaging it is to people getting bullied. And if you think about it happening to kids, it breaks my heart. These kids, they didn't do anything wrong. They're just trying to be themselves. And it's one of the reasons why I think it's all the more important to carry this through, even in adulthood, to stand up for people and help people get to a place where they can defend themselves and feel that they can defend themselves within themselves. So that, here's the key. If you get bullied and it infiltrates your sense of yourself, that's when you're in trouble. If you're getting bullied, but like with my grad school friends, that didn't infiltrate my sense of self.
Yeah.
I looked at them and I just thought, these guys are just being assholes. But it didn't infiltrate me, so that I was fine from that. So that's what we want to go for, is how can we protect the kids and the adults they become from feeling that it infiltrates who they are.
I think going back to that 31%, I think that number is way higher, like you said, Dr. Dan. There's a lot of people who don't talk about it. There's a lot of people who experience bullying and don't even know it. You know what I'm saying? Or who comes up to, like, as a kid, when I got bullied, I would never go up to my parents and tell them that, you know? And it's crazy because as a comedian, Eric, you see me, I get on stage, I pick on people. And some people told me, like, hey, you a bully on stage. And I'm like, dude, you know, it's crazy. Have you ever been called a bully on stage, Eric?
No, but I don't do what you do.
Yeah.
You know, but you rib people. I've seen you go on there and you just start, you know, kind of playing with the crowd.
You know? I rip on them, but at the same time, I'm looking at them. I can see I'm studying them. I know when they really getting mad. I know if I'm hitting a nerve. And after everything is said and done, I make sure that I go up to them after the show's over and thank them for being good sports. See, that's what it's all about.
But right there, you're doing something so important. And in a way, that's not bullying then. That's, you know, look, maybe there is some degree of it, but at the same time, you're the one who's vulnerable up there. You're standing on the stage. You're the one who anybody could rip into at any time. So I look at that very differently. What I love that you do, though, is you make sure to go find them. And sometimes I'm sure you do this on stage, too, to repair. And make sure they feel okay.
I'll give them a shout out. I'll be like, man, at the end of my set, I'll make everybody clap it up for them. You know, I personally thank them because I just made them a part of the show. I'm not there to hurt your feelings, you know, but if I say something that's funny, some people have gotten mad. I'm not going to lie. I've had a couple of people walk out on me and, you know, but I mean.
Those you people, have?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. Yeah, dude. I had a guy, man, he said, fuck you, and stormed out, dude, because I said he was fat. He told me he worked at a gym. I said, why don't you try working out in that thing? And then that's it. It was a wrap. But then, you know, and even at that point when he walked away, I got off stage and I was working with Roberto Vanderpool. He was like, dude, you're an asshole. And I was like, yo, dude, where did he go? I was like, he just left. And I'm like, and I saw the dude coming back. I saw the dude coming back and I caught him. It was one of these places, 2 doors. And I caught him right in between. And he saw me and he was like, he rolled his eyes. And I said, yo, dude, look, if I offended you, I didn't say sorry. I said, but if I offended you, my bad. You know, and he was like, no. I said, no, man, you know, I was joking around with everybody, you know, but if I offended you, my bad. And the dude looked at me and said, bro, you hit a nerve. And I was like, really? Today you found out you were fat? I made you realize you were fat today. You know, like I almost went back at him again, but it was crazy. But other than that, everyone that when I've had a couple of people say, man, you a bully on stage. But like I said, at the end of it, I make it worthwhile for them by me going up to them and, you know, thanking them for just being a part of the show and not taking it personal. At the end of the day, I'm not here to hurt your feelings.
And see, that's the key. I mean, even with this group of friends I'm talking about, if they recognized it and they were like, dude, you know I'm just joking, then I'd be fine. But instead I was like, and they didn't hurt me, but I was like, I don't like you that much in that same way. By the way, the book I was mentioning, Sticks and Stones, is by Emily Bazelon. It's a great book. I totally loved it. So shout out to her. See if I can get her on my show.
Edgar should probably read it so people will stop walking out on him. Bully.
Please. But let me ask you something, Eric. Out of that research that you did, is bullying more common in men than women? Is there a number?
It
on
is.
That?
It is in a higher percentage for males than females. The one thing that is taking bullying to the next level, where children are concerned, and even with adults, if you think about it, is the cyberbullying aspect of it. It's there was a time, I remember we grew up as kids, and we've all got bullied or pushed around at some point or another. There was a kid in school you were trying to avoid, but you always had home to go to, and you could feel safe at home, and then you had the night to relax, and then you go back to school the next day, and the cycle repeats. Now it's 24/7. You could get bullied by an instant message. You can get bullied on an Instagram post, on a Facebook post, on a tweet. And it's nonstop, and the insult and the bullying is out there forever. Dr. Dan, that has to have a more devastating effect than the classic bullying we grew up with, right?
Oh, I think absolutely. But let me put it in a certain context for you. You highlighted it very, very nicely, but I think if you think about it this way, it really speaks out to us even more. Bullying is all about vulnerability. It's all about how vulnerable you feel. Now, you're describing a situation where these people are vulnerable 24/7, all the time, in a way that is exposed to the entire internet, or I guess people who have access to the different, whatever platform you're on, and if they're connected to you. And it's out there forever. It's very, very hard. And here's what I want to say to people who are getting bullied, you have to remember this truly is not your problem. There absolutely is never a reason that somebody should be bullied, ever. So if they're getting bullied, you need to remember this is the problem of the person who's doing it. But I'm really glad you're highlighting this, Eric, because the amount of danger somebody feels in the bullying is going to determine how much it infiltrates them. And that level of vulnerability is huge.
Like Edgar, you remember, you said you were bullied as a kid, Edgar, at any point?
Yeah, of course. I mean,
right.
Especially for me, I was born in Puerto Rico. So I moved to the Bronx when I was like 9 years old. I did not know English, not like I know it now still, but listen, let's not talk about that. Don't bully me on that. But, so just coming here and as a kid, I remember my parents didn't know English. None of us knew English, to see my parents be nervous and I got bullied. I got bullied a lot when I was in school, when I was in elementary school, junior high school. And those are things that for me personally, in a Latino household, I couldn't come home and tell my mom that. I couldn't come home and tell dad that because now I'm going to give them a stress that they don't need. Now they're going to worry more. They were already strict enough as it was. They didn't let us go out for nothing. But if I came home and said, Mom, somebody's bullying me in school, oh, God knows what would have happened, So there's a lot of situations out there where people won't admit that they're getting bullied, But what would you say, Dr. Dan, to someone who, say if your daughter came up to you and said, Dad, I'm getting bullied in school. What advice would you give her, Dr. Dan?
Well, the first thing I would do, and this is a pretty consistent refrain on this show, is I would want to know more. I'd want to listen. Because you want to hear what the details are. You could find that, they're saying they're getting bullied, but really somebody was asking them a question, like about, let's say, what kind of food they eat or something, and they were taking it the wrong way. It might be that they're not even getting bullied, but I do want to listen with a fine ear as to whether they're starting to feel bad about themselves. That's all I care about. Whatever the interaction is, did it infiltrate their sense of who they are and why? So I would start with questions to find out, how did this affect you? People always jump to, what are we going to do about it? And listen, maybe there's going to be something that you want to do about it, but a lot of times not. A lot of times it's about understanding the meaning of it for that person and helping them feel that it's not actually about them. Does that make sense?
I got a question. I got a question because I was thinking, because you said you wanted, we should define bullying, and especially in regards to adult bullying. What is the difference between someone who is actually being bullied to make a decision versus someone who just kind of always kind of goes with what everyone else is thinking. You know what I mean? Just some people's personalities are just like, I'd rather just go with where the group is going. Where is the line there? Because I know some people, like, they're just so indecisive. They'll just go with whatever is the consensus.
Well, again, I think the main thing is, does it change their sense of self? If it changes their sense of self, that to me is the key about bullying. With a person like that who kind of goes with the flow and never kind of stands up for their, whatever their stance is, I see that more of as a choice. Now, it could be that it's going to be better for them and even their sense of self if they go ahead and stand up in some way. And you might even invite it. You might even say, like, hey, do you ever want it to go the way you want it to go? And encourage them to do that. But ultimately, you're going to find people that are just totally fine with it, really. And then other people who are not. And so it really depends on how is it affecting them. I like your question for a lot of reasons, but one of them, Eric, is you're picking up on some of the subtleties of bullying, and I wanted us to talk about some of the subtleties of bullying in here, because it's not always about somebody coming at you really aggressively. It can be about somebody kind of being dominant or dismissive of you in some way, and they may not even realize it, and they may not even have intent. But if it changes the way you think about you, and it's happening because of something they're consistently doing, that fits into that line you're talking about. That crosses that line.
You talk about the subtlety of bullying. The two most common forms of bullying, as far as adults are concerned, 25% of them reported it as experiencing the silent treatment from either a person or a group, and 21% was someone spreading a lie and refusing to say it's not true regardless. So with adult bullying, it's either spreading a lie or not talking to them at all.
Wow. I see much more. I see like a boss, like your boss could be a bully, a coworker. I remember the last job I had before I decided to go full comedy. I was a digger in New York, and this crazy thing was that at the union that I was in, all the guys knew I was a comedian. So they met me as a comic, and then I started working for the union, and then I went from holding a microphone to holding a jackhammer. And I had a few of them that would just bully the shit out of me all day. Oh, you're not so funny now, comedian, huh? Tell us a joke. And I'm like, oh, and it would just like, it wouldn't get to my core. I want to say like it affected me that way, but it would just get on my skin so badly. I'm like, oh my God, and I was like, so there's a lot of, for those listening and viewing, necessarily bullying is not just for kids, like Eric says. There's a lot of ways that you get bullied as an adult, as a man right now, like Dr. Dan, like your friends. A lot of friends tend to do that. When guys get together in a group, we all go at each other. And if you take us one step out and you look at that group, we all bullying the shit out of each other, but we're friends. We're cool. You watch a baseball game, you bully, you talk shit about the game. You know what I'm saying? Two different people like two different teams, is back and forth. That's bullying as well, but it's different. So I think for men, yeah, it's definitely more. But so my question to you, Dr. Dan, real quick is: so let's say your daughter did come up to you and it did affect her. Like, what would be the next step for a parent out there, for a father or mother whose child comes up to them and saying, "Mom, I'm getting bullied in school." And you could see that it has really affected them. What would be your next step? Because I know what my Latino father would have said. Man, you go over there and you slap that kid. You know what I'm saying? Because Latino parents are.
I didn't tell anybody I would get bullied, not because the bullying bothered me. I just didn't feel like going back outside to fight. Because I remember the first 2 or 3 times I had to go back outside and fight. And I said, you know what? This is not conducive to what I want to do here. I lost the fight the first time. Nothing's going to change in the rematch. You know what I mean? I just want to stay home. So I was like, I'm just going to keep this to myself.
So yeah, Dr. Dan, so what would you say to like those viewers out there who are just like let's say their kids came up to them and asked them that question and it really affected them? What would be the next step, for the right next step to take?
Okay, so I'll give you my answer, but I'm really curious to hear what you guys think about it. I think the next step is then to ask them, what would you need to feel better? And they're not going to know that. When you ask them that, a lot of times they won't know at first. But what you're doing what you're doing for them is to give them an opportunity to think about, what do I need? Maybe it's, I need this person to stop that. Or maybe it's I need the coping skills within myself to not let it bother me. Or maybe it's I need a new way to understand what's happening. I don't know what it's going to be, but this is where I'm always about listening. I don't have the answers until I've listened to the person. So I would say to my daughter, like, all right, so what bothers you most about it, as an example? Or how would you want it to go? And you get information. That's the next thing that a parent should be doing in that situation. Just get information. And don't panic about it either. There's a tendency to respond to this societal aggression with aggression, but that usually only leads to problems. There's a time for aggression, channeled aggression, as I talk about, but the fact is you have to figure out what's happening for that kid. And a lot of times we'll go in the wrong direction if we're not listening. We might find out that really all they want is to have some way to respond to stop the conversation. Let me give you an example. And this is actually a part of the kind of stress and kind of subtle bullying that can go on. So in my experience with bullying, mostly I got bullied at home. My older brother would give me a hard time about all kinds of things. At school, I rarely got bullied in any way. But at the same time, I had to spend a huge amount of energy on not getting bullied. It's like you want to avoid that hot potato coming to you. The amount of aggression that was floating around in school, it was going to land on somebody. You guys are comedians. I mean, I spend most of my time basically doing my stand-up act. I just kept people off balance with my sense of humor and showing them I'm not going to take anything seriously. I can turn it on something. I think it's part of how comedians end up being that way. But there's this emotional hot potato that we want to avoid. And so even when you're not getting bullied, this is a dominant factor in society. And I think we want to find out what's happening for that person. Like if somebody asked me as a kid, why do you like to joke around so much? And I was being honest about it. I love to joke around anyway. But part of it was like, it is my number one defense. They'll never mess with me that way. I'm curious what you guys think as comedians about that.
Go ahead, Eric.
Oh, go ahead, Eric. Really? I thought, but you just went full comedian. You just went full comedian a little while ago, and now you want to take a break. I like it. How do you go full? He's like, I went full comedian. Like before, I was sort of comedian, then I became full comedian. You know what I'm saying? I was only
full time.
I went full comic, baby.
Full time comic. Sorry.
I think. Listen, I think every comic, any form of pain that a comedian feels, we turn it into laughter. That's the one thing about being a comedian is that. We'll absorb all the negative stuff and we'll find a way to make it positive, if only to deflect more negative stuff than coming. I probably avoided more ass kicking in high school with my sense of humor than I ever would with my fighting skills. You know what I mean? I would use it to ingratiate myself to people so that it would be enjoyable to have me around because I'm entertaining. Almost a kid jester, if you will. You know what I mean? Because, like Edgar, you were different in that you didn't speak English, so you were an easy target. I didn't look like anyone else in my neighborhood or sound like anyone else in my neighborhood, so I was an easy target. I was very easy to pick out and easy to make fun of on both sides. Whether, when I went to the Italian neighborhood, they made fun of me because I was Puerto Rican. When I was in the Puerto Rican neighborhood, they made fun of me because I looked Italian. I'm like, I can't win. But I could win with jokes. And I would use that to, just kind of make myself feel better. And then they would leave me alone. To me, I stopped a lot of bullying with jokes. I was thinking about your situation, Edgar, before, you were talking about the job you had before you went full comedian. I still
full time.
Oh, okay, there you go. I went full comedian.
Full time comedian, son.
The situation with your coworkers, because you said that you felt you were being bullied. I would ask, do you think it was their intent to bully you, or were you at a point where you were sensitive about having to work a day job and use a jackhammer when it wasn't what you wanted to do? Do you think that played into you feeling like you were bullied? Because I've been to work sites, and coworkers like to joke around and I kind of bust balls kind of thing. Do you think your feelings toward this situation affected how you perceived what you were dealing with?
I did. Obviously, you could, I'm not gonna tell you no on that. And there is a lot of, joking around at the job site, but there was just a couple of dudes that I knew that it was coming from a real. I could read people good, So I know when someone jokes around and tells you something, and then when someone tells you something, I think, and it was like every day. And it happens a lot in work, and the hates that work on teams, football, baseball, whatever it is. They always take the rookies and they hate. So it's like the freshman, what is it, freshman Fridays? Remember freshman Fridays when you got to high school? That first Friday was a freshman Fridays and every freshman got jumped. I begged my mother never to send me to school on freshman Friday, and I couldn't explain to her why I didn't want to go to school.
I know.
She's
they
like,
kept coming
"No
after me
holiday."
when I was in college. I'm like, listen, I left the high school already. Stop it, guys.
Not a freshman.
No, but I asked you
I'm a
that
new
question. I asked you that question, Dr. Dan, because just the other day I was having a conversation with a couple of friends of mine, and they have a little girl. She's 11 years old, and she's getting bullied in school by another girl who is the daughter of one of the higher ups in the school, and it's crazy, And then they complain about it. And I was like hearing them out and how the girl came to them and told them, look, they bullying me. The little girl is an actress, up and coming actress. She's done few things already on TV. So she feels like she's getting bullied because of them seeing her on TV and the fact that she skipped school because she has shoots and everything else. And it's crazy because I told her that the father asked, I said, why don't you do something about it? He goes, no, Dad, I don't want to do nothing about it. Like the little girl is so responsible, but I don't want to address it. And the father almost told me, he was like, man, I almost wish, like, I don't condone violence, but I almost wish like she went to school one day and just slapped her, And it's crazy just to hear the parents on what to do when their kid is getting bullied. And that's why I asked you the question, because I want the viewers and listeners to like try to understand the situation that their kids are in, or not just kids, a friend. I could come up to you tomorrow and tell you, Eric, man, I feel like someone's bothering me or that. And that's a case of bully as well. So how to handle that situation when it comes up,
Yeah, let me give one piece of information that people could really use about what they can tell their kids or what they can do in their own situation. The best way you can stop a bully is to not care what they're saying. And I don't even mean that inside. I mean in terms of how you act. The kids who get bullied, and I watched this happen. I watched this happen to a kid in my elementary school class. I felt horrible for him, Steven. He would get teased relentlessly, but he would get so upset about it. And I as a kid, I remember I just had this instinct. I was like, Steven, stop. Don't get so upset about it. Because they're just going to get worse then. You got to show that you don't care. Even if you do care inside. You just got to show you don't care. You just got to be like, okay, whatever.
That wouldn't have worked with the bullying I was dealing with in school. It was a little more physical than that.
Well, listen, if it's physical, it's different.
Right? It's hard to say, oh, I don't care what you're doing when you're getting hit in the face.
I don't care if you hit me in the face. I'm totally fine.
I'm just saying, like, insults are one thing, and that's the thing that kind of it bugs me out. Like, I think I'd almost prefer the physical, because at least in the physical bullying you could react to it.
Well,
at least there's a reaction to physical bullying that you can do. And
I feel the opposite.
Yeah,
I feel the opposite, because if it's physical, it almost requires a response. You don't have the option to detach.
Yeah, but you get to respond the way you want, though. That's what I'm saying. Like, if someone bullies you physically, then you get to knock them out, or at least give it your best shot. But if someone is just constantly telling lies on the internet or instant messaging you to just make you feel like shit, you can't swing at that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's probably a whacked out opinion, but to me,
I think
it's easier to respond to the physical.
Yeah, well, I think it's easy. I think it's easier to respond than you may think. But here's the other thing. And I'm not condoning this at all, but the thing about the physicality of things, you can always make it physical. You can be like, okay, you want to say this to my face instead of on the internet? I'll come find you. I mean, you can always go that route if you want. I'm definitely not recommending it. Mm-hmm. But the thing that I prefer about it remaining a little indirect is that I think you can do a lot more about it. And you know what's interesting, Eric? This kind of speaks to the fact that you and I grew up with a different kind of bullying. My brother could be physically bullying at times. And I'll tell you, I did not prefer that. I really didn't. However, one thing I will say, the physical bullying did not infiltrate me as much. So in a way...
Hold on.
What happened?
That's my wife's phone playing the theme from Sister Sister. So sorry about that.
It's okay.
Sorry, I thought you would. Sorry to rock. All right, sorry guys. Sorry
That's
about
okay.
that.
So, I think it's interesting because we grew up maybe with different kinds of bullying. I didn't have a ton of physical bullying, but when my brother would do that, which he would sometimes, I always hated that because I couldn't. I guess it depends on who you are and what you prefer. Like, I always preferred being able to have a psychological solution. If somebody's hitting you in the face, there's no psychological solution. So, like,
Dan was a lover, not a fighter.
it didn't.
Well, listen, I'm glad you didn't have to come up with that type of bullying, but it did happen, especially in the Bronx in the late 70s, early 80s. It was a different time. It was a much more violent time then. I'm pretty sure it's still violent now, but at least I knew who my bullies were. Like these days, you could be anonymous.
That's true.
You're on the internet. You could be nameless and faceless, and you could torment someone to death. At least back in our day, we knew who it was. Whether it was psychological bullying or physical bullying, at least you could see them and confront them because you knew who they were. How do you handle it when you don't even know who they are, and they could be 10, 20, 30 at the same time?
Yeah. That's the difference. That's clearly the difference when we grew up and how bullying was back then to how it is now, and how they have made bullying such a big deal now, which is the same as life. Everything happens, but when we were little, we had to deal with that bullying, and now a kid could say they got bullied because they got called fat. Oh, they call me fat, and someone would consider that bullying nowadays. Oh, you fat, you know what I'm saying? So there's so many difference in between when we grew up and how it is right now.
Let me ask a question of you, Edgar. With what you just said, like, do you not consider it bullying if somebody does call you fat?
No, I do. No,
Okay.
I do.
Because I do too. So I was wondering.
I do too. But I'm just it's crazy how the difference on when we grew up. But see, somebody would have said that when you were growing up. Your parents would probably call you fat when you were growing up.
But you know what? Like, I think this is one area where I give my field some credit. Like, I think and this comes from like the statistics that Eric was saying too. We understand that this is a serious problem. I mean, in this book, Sticks and Stones, you can read about it. It is a seriously harrowing thing. Kids' lives can be ruined. People commit suicide over these things. Mm-hmm. It's a dangerous thing. This is serious. This is why I get feisty about these things, because it's really, really, it's hard to take. I mean, even with, it's funny, we have this segment, Breaking the Mold. That's all about the fact that we have hidden parts of ourselves because we're afraid that emotional hot potato is going to come to us, and people are going to be like, oh, well, now I'm going to tease you because you like, the song from St. Elmo's Fire. Yes, I do. And I don't care what you think. See, right there, I just debunked whatever bullying could have come my way. We hide ourselves, and it's not good to hide yourself. And it's not a good feeling. And it all comes from how toxic and awful the bullying can be.
Mm-hmm. Especially a bully who has apprentices, a little bully with proteges. Remember, there's a few different kind of bullies. There's that one single bully that no one likes, who bullies everyone, who's considered a bully, and then there's the bully who has a little entourage around, just clapping and cheering every time he says something.
That crew.
The bully crew, What do you say about those kids, who just follow the bully because maybe they're trying to hide and not get bullied. They figure, oh, man, maybe if I join the bully side, then I won't get bullied. But now you're just being a part of the bullying.
But see, I think you're hitting the nail on the head, Edgar. Everyone's afraid of this. Everybody, no matter how they handled it, whether they ended up being the kid jester, or they ended up being the bully's apprentice, or they ended up getting bullied, or they are the bully. Every single person is actually afraid of this. Mm-hmm. If we could just have some humanity for each other and recognize that fear, that aggression doesn't have to come out on anybody, then maybe we can avoid it.
But it's like you
Dan,
said, Eric.
real quick, I want to ask Dan a question. I wanted to follow up. When you said you liked the song from St. Elmo's Fire, were you talking to the theme song from the movie or the instrumental song.
No, I'm talking about the theme song by John Parr, "Man in
by
Motion."
John Parr. Okay, I just want to be
Yes.
clear.
It's one of my favorite songs of all time.
There's that
Makes
song
me
that's
happy.
only saxophone and sadness. I forgot the name of it, but
Yeah, no, I mean that one's okay, but no,
yeah,
it's,
okay.
it's,
Just want to be
it's
sure.
it's the
Just
sung
want to
one.
be sure.
No, Eric, but going back to what you said, Eric, and how you would prefer physical bullying over verbal. I think, I got to go with Dr. Dan on that one because a physical bullying, it can happen every day where a kid come hit you or you get into a fight. But I think the verbal could actually hurt you even more. Sometimes they say words hurt more than actual hits. You know what I'm saying? Because verbally, when you verbally bully someone, you're getting into their head, you're messing them up, you're telling them something, and then you start to believe that. And I think it will eventually. How would I say it? The long-term effects of verbally bullying someone are probably worse than physically bullying because you grow up.
That's why
you grow up, you move
that's
up.
why I prefer the physical. I mean, not for nothing. Every bully. Like, I've dealt with both in my life, both types. The one that just wanted to physically intimidate you and make you just feel fear, and ones that just would make statements that just to try to cut your heart out. The physical ones, when you confront those, after about 3 or 4 rounds, you both get tired and you end up kind of becoming friends after that, and end up hanging out. But it was the ones that like knew a situation or knew that I didn't have a lot, I didn't have a lot in the house, and my situation, I was poor, I didn't have a lot of money, and to say certain things that they knew would hurt, and to say things about my physical appearance that they knew would hurt. I hated that. I come to find out years later, and a couple of these bullies that were really bad to me in junior high, I ended up meeting them again in high school and as young adults, and I found out they were just as damaged as I was, and they dealt with as much trauma as I have, because we came up in the same neighborhoods, but they just, I guess they just needed a way to feel powerful, in a world of powerlessness, and they would just find to take it out on somebody. You know what I mean? It's easy as an adult to understand the concept of why, but it doesn't make it any easier to go through it. So, I think a really great question to ask of you, Dr. Dan, how do you recognize if your child is a bully? And what can you do to get them out of that, to prevent them from becoming bullies? Are there signs? Is there something you could see that maybe a parent should be worried about?
Fantastic question. I'm going to try to answer it, but this is a deeper one. We could probably do a whole episode on that. I mean, I think the thing you want to watch out for is your kid showing empathy for other people or not? Ultimately, it simply comes down to that, is that a kid who, and it may be because they're feeling so damaged themselves, or they're feeling so worried themselves or scared themselves that they can't afford to, or they think they can't afford to have that empathy. But that's what you want to do with that kid. You want to ask them directly, like, listen, why don't you feel bad for them? Why is that not bothering you? Just by asking the question, you change the whole situation. I'm not saying that will solve things instantly, but you set them on the right path. You want to have discussions about empathy. That is honestly the key to getting rid of all of this.
Interesting. Good question, Eric. And I got another one, Dr. Dan, for you. Do you think a kid who becomes a bully, are the parents an influence in this? Or the household they live in, or their families, or is that an influence of becoming a bully on how your father talks or treats your mom, or what you see in the household?
So I would say this. It can be, but it isn't always. I know families where it's like the nicest people, they would never do anything like that, and then their kids end up being bullies. And I would say that what we have to remember about bullies is that these are people who are feeling really insecure themselves. That can happen even in nice families. Now, I mean, I do think that you're more likely to have a bully come out of a family with bullies in it. But It can happen in any family, and it can happen in any circumstance. It all depends on the vulnerability and the way it plays out. And this is something people don't really seem to understand. You put a group of people together, there's all kinds of vulnerabilities, and it's going to come out in some particular way, where that emotional hot potato ends up on somebody, and the bullying role ends up on somebody else. And there's some degree to which we need to recognize not everybody's choosing their path so much. They're making choices based on vulnerability. If we can help people have empathy, then they won't feel so vulnerable and exposed. And by the way, this is another reason I said I get feisty about this. We have to push back against bullying in the right way, not by bullying back. You don't bully the bully to end the bullying. Instead, you get in there and you say, "Why is this going on? Why are you doing this? What are you upset about?" And they'll deny it at first, but eventually, we're all people.
That should be a breaking the mold we propose, right? Let's break the mold of bullying by defend someone that's being bullied or call out bullying. And for the parents, tell your kids about it. And if any kids are listening, the fuck you listening to us for, kids? You're too young. No, I'm just kidding. Listen, man, break the mold, defend someone that's being bullied, and call out a bully for being a bully. Let's do that.
Actually, that's how I break the mold, honestly. I'm that dude. I don't know about you guys, but I try to mind my business as much as I can, but if I were to see some type of bullying going on, I will be that dude to step in. I definitely, I've done it a few times, and it's crazy because sometimes you do it and people don't learn from it, but I always step in, and it's gotten me in trouble too.
I tend to step in now. It's interesting. I was thinking about this. I don't know if we want to do a walking the walk or not, but I was thinking,
I got one if we want to do one.
Let's do it, yeah.
Let's do it. Let me just finish this comment, and then we'll jump to you, Eric. But I think one of the reasons I do step in is I remember the regret that I feel about when I didn't. Like that kid Steven in elementary school. I wish I had taken him aside and said, "Listen, even if I hadn't intervened then, I could have been like, listen, I see what's happening to you. It sucks. It's not about you, but let me give you a piece of advice." And I think if you acknowledge it, even if you don't confront the bully about it, it's really important that you go to the person who's being bullied and you say, "I saw that." The lack of validation, actually, there's something that they say in trauma work. It's like the trauma's bad enough, but it's how people responded to the trauma that's worse. And I feel bad that I was a little kid, but I wish I had gone up to him and said, "Listen, I see what's happening to you. It's not fair. It sucks. It's not about you." Just offer that to him. All right, now with that out of the way, Eric, let's hear this walking the walk.
Let's go into a walking the walk. Actually, my bad. Walking the walk. So for those of you listening for the first time or viewing or for the first time, walking the walk is a segment where we like to express ourselves, let something out, share something that's bothering us now, has bothered us in the past. It's basically just get stuff off our chest. So today we decided to do it between the three of us on the topic of bullying, and we're gonna let Eric walk the walk first. Go ahead, brother.
All right, so real quick, when there was about a 7-8 year stretch when I went full comedy, and
that is bullying, bro. You're bullying me right now.
Really?
This is bullying.
Am I?
Edgar, I see what's happening to you. And I validate it, and it's not about you.
Stepping in.
And Eric, I know that you're not actually a bully. You're just having your own feelings.
So anyway, that I had to come out of full comedy and had to get back to the real world. So I applied for a job, and a 7-year gap on a resume, and I was working in social services and stuff like that before I went full comedy. So so a 7-year gap in a resume in social services that says I left to be a comedian for 7 years doesn't look good. You know what I mean? Like it's just like. So I did get a job. And the guy, the boss that hired me, I did a good job, and he promoted me pretty quickly. However, he treated me like shit. He would talk to me like shit. He made me feel stupid. He would talk about me bad in front of the other staff. I was coming home stressed out, overworked. I was, dreading going to work the next day. And, I just come off 7 years doing full-time comedy, traveling across the country. And then I got some dude in an office making me feel like shit. And this went on for like 4 years. You know what I mean? And I was afraid to say anything, Not because I was afraid of him. I was afraid I wouldn't get another job. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't think anyone would want to hire someone that was a comedian for the last 7 years. I didn't think people could understand that was an actual job, and it required a lot of work and intelligence and traveling and coordination. You know, a lot of people just think if you're a comedian full-time, you sit on a couch and sleep and get up at 10 o'clock and go do a set. It's so much more than that. But I was afraid I wouldn't get another job. So I took it. And then they eventually fired him because eventually they found out how much of a fuck up he was. And my entire personality changed as soon as he left. And even, you know, it upset my wife tremendously because she hated that I let this person from the outside have so much control of punching me in the gut on the inside, you know? She hated it. I hated it. And what I learned from that is don't be afraid to step up. Like, you know, I was kind of mad at myself that I let it happen to me, you know? But if I could go back, I would definitely change it. But I'll never forget how that person made me feel. And I'll never let anybody make me feel like that again. And I actually, you know, now I'm more entrenched in what I do for a living and I have more confidence in my abilities. I don't know if I had just been working straight in my current field, if I would have done the same thing. But it says something where, and it was just something, even if just walking into a room and pointing at me and waving his hand over to say, come to my office without saying a word, next to a fellow supervisor, you know, just totally stripping me of my supervisory power in front of a staff member. I'm supposed to tell what to do, and you just made me look like a trained dog to come to your office. You know what I mean? Little things like that. And just like, it was just crazy that even at that stage in my life, with the confidence that it takes to be a performer and to be out there on stage in front of a room full of strangers and having no problem to go to reverting to the point where someone that has nothing to do with your life other than that he's your supervisor, so it has something to do with it, but to make you feel that screwed up inside that you take it home and every day just seems like a drag and you hate Fridays because you know only Monday's around the corner, believe it or not. So it's never you're never at an age where somebody can't try to bully you. You know what I mean? And I think you have to, first thing you have to acknowledge that it's happening to you and then find a way to step up and say something about it. I wish I had. I actually talked to him after the fact. The irony in this story is that he reached out to me about 5 or 6 years after I hadn't seen him in those years. And he wanted to do something in animation, and he wanted to work with me to work on this animated project. And I thought about it. I was like, that's how I was like, maybe no. You know, I was like, what am I doing? And at that point, I told him why I didn't want to work with him. I told him he made me feel like shit, and the way he talked to me, and the way he demeaned me. And he was like, well, that's not what I intended. It's not what I meant. You know, like, I guess he felt like he felt like he wasn't bullying me. And he really felt like he wasn't. So
Eric, I need that name and address of this guy right now, real quick.
Listen.
We're gonna take care of this guy like Dr. Dan's therapist, bro.
Listen,
right,
he's
we're
calling me to
here.
work on animation projects. Trust me, he's already down on his luck. You can't hit him any more than you can hit him down now.
You know what I see in that situation, Eric? I see that he was probably intimidated by you. He is someone who left the work field to go full comedy for 7 years and then come back and then probably see you like, okay, this guy's gonna be a joke. And the way you climbed the ladder, he was probably intimidated that one day you're gonna take his job. And that's how some people feel like, okay, let me make his life impossible. But I'm good. Go ahead.
Well, that's a great point. I mean, I really do think one of the main reasons people bully is that they are intimidated. You know, when I was in grad school, this was a subtle form of bullying, but I think that it was. I had a lot more experience than everybody else in psychology, in my therapy experience, growing up in a family of therapists and stuff like that. And I knew better, and I wasn't flaunting it or shoving it in people's faces, but they were threatened by me, and they did not like it, and they shunned me. You know, it was like that thing you said, where Eric, where a lot of times it's the silent treatment. I got a form of the silent treatment from it, and I think Edgar's right on. I think this guy was threatened by you. And if anybody looks at a resume, and this is so interesting, and I understand why you were sensitive or worried about it, but if I looked at a resume and I saw that, I'd be like, now this is interesting. This is a person with some guts. Because, like, that's not easy to do. If you really have any idea, if you're thinking about it at all, it takes guts, and I bet you this guy was really threatened by you.
I never thought about that. I guess I just worried because comedy's not compatible with other lines of work. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing very similar unless it's something else in the entertainment industry. So I probably fooled myself into thinking that it was actually hurting me. In that, because it may look on the outside as if I just took 7 years off, but I was touring colleges. I was actually working. I was earning a living, so it wasn't like was sitting around. But I let my insecurity going back into the workforce get the best of me.
But it makes sense. It makes sense, and what it speaks to is you. And Edgar, you made this point before. Actually, I think Eric made it to Edgar. The idea that we could carry sensitivities with us into things, like maybe you were carrying around a feeling like people don't respect comedians as they should, as like an actual full job. And so you carried that with you. I have a totally different kind of thing. It's funny to me to think about that. I used to think this because I don't care at all anymore. But I used to feel that there was a stigma about therapists that bothered me. And it was that most therapists are crazy. That's a saying that people have. And I felt that I'd go to a dinner party or something, people ask me what I do, and I'd tell them that I was a therapist, and there was always one of two responses. One was they'd start talking to me like I was their therapist and they needed help and da-da-da-da-da. And then other people were like, well, I'm going to get the hell away from you because you scare the crap out of me. And those are the two responses every time, and I felt very burdened by that. Very different kind of experience, but I think we all carry insecurities with us about whoever we are or whatever has happened to us or what we do. And the main piece of advice I'd give to everybody is you have to feel proud of who you are no matter who you are.
Mm-hmm. I got bullied. The one that always never left my mind, when I was in the 6th grade, I was in the Bronx, and I used to have this kid in my class who just kept calling me like gay. He said, "You gay" in Spanish, because I was in bilingual. So it's like pato, gay all day. And he had like a little entourage with him, and they would all laugh at me. And I was so mad. And like I said, I couldn't come home and tell my mom that. I didn't know how to tell mom and dad that. And one day he got me to the point that he got me so frustrated that he said, "You want to fight after school?" He said, "Yeah, we're gonna fight after school." And I was like, "Oh my God, we're gonna fight after school." So I think the mistake I did was that I put some big fat gloves, winter gloves, that my mother used to get you. Remember the big gloves you could barely make a fist back in the days because it was so stiff? So I put my gloves on, and I remember I went out to school, and I started fighting in the 6th grade. And let me tell you guys something. I mean, I could break the mold by telling you I don't know how to fight at all. I mean, you could count the fights I've had in my life with one hand because I'm not a fighter. I'll do anything in my power to prevent having to have a fight. So now I'm having this fight with this kid, and I got him a couple of times. I was like, "Oh yeah," but then he started coming at me, and I fell. I hit the curve, and I fell. He jumped on me. So now to the naked eye, everybody watching, now they see this kid on top of me just whacking me in my face. Until security came and pulled him off of me, and I went home, and I had a little black eye. And it's crazy how my mother noticed everything. A mother would notice anything on their kids. And I knocked on the door. My mother asked me what happened to my eye before she even opened the door. She was like, "What happened to your eye?" I was like, nothing. And I walked in and I told her. And this is why I asked you the question of what a parent should do when their kid comes, they find out their kid is being bullied. My father got so mad, he went to school the next day. And then they let him in. I don't know why they let him into the classroom, but they let him into the classroom, and he threatened that other kid, the bully, in front of me. And the whole classroom, he told the kid, "If you ever touch my son again, I'm going to come here. I'm going to hit you myself." And I was like, who does that? Which I think is worse. Because like you say, Dr. Dan, you don't condone bullying with more bullying. You know what I'm saying? That's not how you resolve the situation. And it was crazy, and I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed that even if I got bullied after that, I would have never told him because I saw how he handled that. I saw how my father handled that situation. I was like, no way in hell.
And this is why you got to listen to your kid. I mean, if he had asked you, like, "Do you want me to go?" You would have been like, no, don't do that. I will say there's a little bit of there's a little bit of a silver lining in there because it does show some love and protection in there. But I sure get why you didn't like him doing that, and I don't think any kid would want that. It's humiliating, right?
Yeah, of course.
I got $20 on your father.
Over that kid.
Oh man, I've seen his father. Perfect
Yeah.
mustache. He's like the Magnum PI of Puerto Rico. He kicked his ass.
Yeah, my brother used to get bullied by the super of the building, the super son. You know, and that's crazy because I'm a super son.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Before my father became a super, we had supers, and I remember his kid. May he rest in peace. He passed away. But he used to bully us, man. And my parents never let us out, so we would just always be out the window. And he used to always bully my brother from the window. And he got mad. And my brother said, "You want to fight?" He goes, "Yeah, you want to fight?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm going to go fight." And this kid came and knocked on the door. You know? And he knocked on our door. And my father opened the door. He goes, "I want to fight your son." And my father's like, asked my brother, "You want to fight him?" My brother's like, yeah, I want to fight him. And you want to fight him? And my father let him out the whole way. And my brother got fucked up.
Oh my God.
The super son kicked his ass, man.
That's not how
like
that's
that-
not how I saw that going. I saw
didn't
that going
know,
in
right?
a different direction.
It was a surprise ending, but I love
thought it was
that the
gonna be
bully
like-
knocked on the door.
Louis found his way, you know?
Who does that?
He was like,
Who
"May
does-
I
who-
fight? May I fight your son?"
May I fight your son? And my
Hello.
brother was so amped up, and I was
Does your
like,
son want to
the
fight with
cornerman.
me? Can I fight your son? Bring
I was
him
the
out here.
cornerman. I was going
Bring
like
him
this
in
to
the
my brother. I
hallway.
said, "You got this, bro. You got this, bro." And my brother went outside, and the kid messed him up, man. And then my father messed him up afterwards. You know, so he came to the
Oh,
house. Then my
man.
father
That's a
beat him
double
up
beating.
for taking the beat down. You know, amping him up. But it's crazy how, you know, every nationality is different. And, you know, and to all the viewers and listeners, I mean, no matter where you're from, we are all different, and we were all raised in different ways, you know. So, like you said, Dr. Dan, the greatest advice you said through this whole topic is listen to the person who's telling you something. Listen to what they want instead of you trying to fix something. You know, it's quick for you to be a father and your son to come up to you, "But Dad, this kid's messed me up," and you be like, "All right, you know what?" and get mad because as your son, yeah, you want to protect them. But at the same time, you protect them protecting them in that direction could eventually just make the kid worse or the situation worse, you know?
And don't assume that the culture that the person's from is going to actually dictate what they want. A lot of times people can feel really locked into their culture, and you don't have to. We got to listen to the individual every time.
But bullying's bad regardless. I don't
Yes.
care. I don't care what it is. I don't care what you are or where you're from. Bullying is bad, and if you're a bully, stop it. And if you're being bullied, find the strength to stop it.
Yes. And help someone who's being bullied, you know, by listening. Or,
step
you
it
know,
up.
And step it up. That's right. And if you are viewing or listening and you got bullied when you were growing up or bullied to this day now, please comment down below, man. I want to see some comments. I want people to see. I know people watch the videos and watch the podcast, but I want you guys to comment and become a part of it so we can read your comments and maybe talk about it next week. So if you ever got bullied, if to this day you're getting bullied, please feel free to comment below, or any story that you have, any walking the walk, any breaking the mold. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for I went
Being part of
speechless,
this.
Eric. for fully listening.
Primordial.
Primordial. Nah, but thank you, man. Thank you so much.
All right, guys, I'll take us out as usual. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, put your comments below, and we'll get back to you personally.
Brothers in arms.
Brothers in arms. Primordial. It's primordial. I fucked it up again. Damn it.